upon immigration, border security, issues that matter deeply to the great people of Mission, Matsqui, Abbotsford. This bill is actually a direct result of Conservative leadership, our commitment to holding the government accountable and also pushing back against some of the divisiveness that we saw in Bill C-2. Let's not forget, Mr. Speaker, after the election, Canadians were very clear with everyone across this Parliament that we needed to work together, that they wanted to see leadership from the Conservative Party to put the best interests of Canadians forward. And I think what we're seeing here today, which is actually quite historical in the context of government legislation, just shows to Canadians that we're willing to compromise, but we're also standing firm in our principles about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And so far, we supported a tax cut that the Liberals put forward. We supported measures to improve interprovincial trade. And today we're supporting some long-standing measures in Bill C-12, which will improve public safety. The bill before us today covers everything from border measures to money laundering rules to sweeping surveillance powers. Buried deep within it, that was on the previous bill. In the previous bill, there was provisions on Canada Post and sweeping new surveillance powers, which are not included in this legislation, which many Canadians are thankful for. In fact, many of my constituents wrote to me explaining that they did not want me to support a bill with such measures. So in the new bill, what we can see today are measures on the Border Services Agency that will grant authority to inspect outgoing shipments in the same way that border service agents inspect imports. That's an important change. Canada has long monitored what comes into the country, but not always what leaves. These new powers could help stop illegal exports, arms trafficking, or the flow of fentanyl precursors across our borders. According to Health Canada, between January 2016 and June of 2024, more than 49,000 Canadians lost their lives to the opioid toxicity crisis. In the first half of 2024 alone, fentanyl was involved in nearly 80% of accidental opioid deaths, a 39% increase since national tracking began. In the last 2 years alone, police have dismantled major fentanyl labs in Langley, Falkland, and in the Hatzic Valley in my own riding. Strengthening CBSA's ability to track and intercept illegal exports, particularly precursor chemicals used in fentanyl production, is a necessary step if we're serious about disrupting the flow of deadly opioids, which are killing lives unnecessarily in our country. The bill also amends the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act to allow the Minister of Health to quickly schedule new precursor chemicals used in fentanyl production. Conservatives support this because we've been calling for tougher, faster action in response to the opioid crisis for years, and these are warranted powers to the minister. It also gives law enforcement officers clarity and legal protection while handling controlled substances during investigations, which makes sense from an operational perspective. The bill expands the Coast Guard's authority to share information with security and intelligence partners and modernizes how departments handle immigration and refugee files. It strengthens penalties for money laundering and terrorist financing by reforming FinTrack, our national financial intelligence agency. Real reforms are needed to fix what the previous government broke to rebuild trust in a fair, secure, inefficient system. And I will note that this is a Liberal government that's fixing problems from a previous Liberal government. But there are still problems with this bill, and the Liberals have left too many details to regulation. Rather than writing clear, enforceable laws, they have chosen to permit future decisions through regulation, decisions that can be quietly changed by cabinet behind closed doors with no parliamentary oversight. That means the real power, in some cases, may remain in the hands of the ministers, but not in the text of Canada's criminal code and accompanying legislation. There's lots of public interest in how refugee and immigration claims are handled and how people want to know how the system is being managed responsibly, for example. So this is a pattern we've seen time and time again with this government, whether it's how they spend, how they tax, or how they regulate. The Liberals do prefer regulatory approach over clarity and secrecy over accountability. That is why the Conservatives still, though, will support Bill C-12 to committee, but we need to insist on a couple of things that I believe should be looked at closely when the bill is brought to the committee stage. First, FinTrack. We need to ensure that Canada's Financial Intelligence Agency has the proper tools and oversight to tackle money laundering effectively, transnational crime, and the illicit flows of fentanyl that undermine both our economy and our border. From this bill alone, we can't tell if it does a good enough job. We need to study that in detail at the committee stage. Second, we need to look very closely at the broad discretionary powers included in this bill. It gives ministers, for example, wide latitude, particularly on immigration and refugee files. Committee study must examine whether these powers could be misused and how to include clear safeguards because Canadians deserve a fair and transparent and accountable system. Thirdly, CBSA's authority to inspect outgoing cargo. While these powers, I believe, are essential for stopping criminal gangs and fentanyl traffickers, we must also ensure there's balance. Trusted exporters, through the Trusted Exporter Program, for example, should not be burdened unnecessarily, and inspections must be targeted and reasonable. Again, Mr. Speaker, we need to see this carefully addressed at committee. So from my first reading of this bill, by focusing on the 3 amendments or things to be studied closely, hopefully we can strengthen this legislation and give our law enforcement the necessary tools to improve public safety and work towards improving trust in government institutions across our country. In British Columbia, I've actually seen containers ready for export to Asia full of stolen cars. I have seen the devastating impacts of fentanyl destroying lives. We have seen billions of dollars of money laundered into Canada's economy, in some cases driving up the price of real estate, increasing crime in our communities. My hope for this bill is that it takes some measurable steps to improve all the things Canadian society sees wrong with the way our institutions handle these critical issues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. Question commentary. The honourable member for Scarborough-Woolburn.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say, the member did say that this was a historical moment. And it is a historical moment. I think that's probably one of the most positive speeches I've heard from the opposition in a long time when it comes to a constructive approach to building good government policies and strengthening bills. And he talked about the police being effective. He talked about being very supportive of many of the measures. It's a huge contrast to what we usually see in this House, where Conservatives are trying to disrupt, trying to divide, and not bring Canadians together. So I'm very thankful for that speech. I think it's a positive speech, and I think this member opposite has a bright future in his riding as a very positive Conservative. It's exactly what Canadians are looking for.
The honourable member of Mission Matsqui, Abbotsford.
Well, I would like to thank the member from Scarborough for his genuinely nice comments about my comportment in the House of Commons. But I will note again, and I will re-emphasize, Mr. Speaker, that in this Parliament, Conservatives have heard what Canadians had to say, and we're working to improve the lives of all Canadians. We ran on a platform that included strong taxation measures. We ran on a platform to improve public safety, and we ran on a platform to improve border security. Imitation is often the best form of flattery, and I am thankful that the Liberals have listened to the Conservatives and adopted many of our sound policies to improve the lives of Canadians, and that's what collaboration in this House is all about. I thank the member.
Questions and comments. Question commentaire. The honourable member for Markham Unionville. No, questions and comments. The honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Nicola. Counting. It's always a pleasure to rise on behalf of the people from Kamloops. Thompson Nicola, I thank my colleague for his speech. I know that he comes to this House with great passion and a very rich sense of desire to do well by his constituents and Canadians for that matter. The bill that we're debating here today, Mr. Speaker, is a rehashing of Bill C2. I wonder if my colleague could comment, please, on what he really saw the issues with C2 being and how we actually got here and why. Thank you.
The honourable member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to congratulate the member from Kamloops, Thompson Nicola, on his incredible work and adopting some of the greatest parts of Canada into his new riding, especially in the Fraser Canyon. But the member has been working incredibly hard, and he was leading the charge in many respects on getting to Bill C-12. And why did we need to get to Bill C-12? Well, Bill C-2 included provisions that would allow our law enforcement agencies to look at our internet data, look at our internet traffic, look at our mail without judicial orders. And for many people in Canada, that was a step too far. As I mentioned in my speech, we need to improve public trust in our institutions. Bill C-2 did not do that. Bill C-12 is a step in the right direction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question et commentaire, l'honorable député Jonquière.
The honourable member for Jonquière. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll leave my colleague some time to put his earpiece on. All right. Today we talked a little bit about the infamous Part 8 of the bill, which answers an oft-repeated call from the Bloc Québécois regarding asylum seekers. But there's one thing that is not in the bill, and I'd like to hear my colleague's opinion upon it. In fact, I'd like to hear the Conservative Party's opinion. Do Conservatives agree that Quebec has done more than its fair share to take in asylum seekers, and there should be a mechanism allowing asylum seekers to be spread more equitably throughout the country?
Matsqui Abbotsford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think the member from the Bloc Québécois on asylum seekers raises a very valid point. You know, many Liberals were celebrating 10 years of Justin Trudeau the other day. One of the worst legacies of Justin Trudeau was policies on the border. Justin Trudeau said to the world, hey, come into Canada. Great, come into Canada. And frankly, we had a de facto open border policy under his reign. And it destroyed public trust in immigration.